Welcome to Psychic Bent. My name is Carrie.
And I'm Kim. We are two sisters wanting to help other psychics learn and grow in their abilities and to help educate about spirits, angels, and everything psychic.
So welcome back to Psychic Bent. Today we are going to be doing things a little bit different than what we normally do, and we hope you enjoy what we do. It should be interesting. So today we're going to be discussing the fear factor, and we hope that you enjoy the format for today. So Carrie, why is the fear factor such a important thing in psychic abilities?
Well, it's really what holds you back from being your true self and, really, developing your abilities and getting out there and being what you were born to be. We all have psychic abilities. Everybody does, except for the, dark empath guy. But, yeah, they pop in. But, the fear is what really keeps people in the psychic closet, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it. You're afraid your friends will think you're crazy. Do I really have psychic abilities? Because it's not like I'm seeing on TV. I'm not having this moment. And can a bad spirit attach to me? And what's my family going to think? Are they going to think I'm crazy?
Yeah.
These are some things that the fears that I had myself. Did you have other fears, Kim, when you started the path?
I have many fears.
Yes, and not all of them are psychic related, but yes, you have many fears.
No. I do, but I think a lot of those fears actually come from the psychic abilities.
Fears
not
of
having the psychic abilities, but that's what I think that this episode should be about, is what are we actually fearing?
So what are you actually fearing?
Well, like you said, what will people think? That fear has been since childhood. That shows you how long fears can be there that can affect your abilities.
Yes,
right?
And I think some of these fears come from possibly some of our upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
Not just your own fear, but fear that has been pushed upon you by others.
Right. I agree with that.
And when you talk about fear that you've had since a child, you're so comfortable with that fear that you're used to it. You don't think anything of it. And it comes down to, and correct me if you don't agree, but you have to make a choice to let it go. And that's difficult.
Yeah, because if it came in at childhood, you didn't know you could let it go.
Right.
Because the fear was fed repeatedly.
And you didn't realize that fear was actually fear.
Right. You didn't realize that was actually fear. And it doesn't get better, or you don't face it until really you're an adult. I guess you could through your teens face fears, but you're facing a whole different aspect of fears at that point in time,
Right. Well, and I think when you get to a certain age, you shut down your abilities, and a lot of that is fear-based. Because one thing, you're first of all, you're told that's not happening, that's not true, you're going to go to hell. I don't mean to throw that out there, but in some upbringings, there is a huge religious dogma that is ingrained in you. And if you've been going to church your whole life, that is ingrained in you. And I'm not saying going to church is bad. I'm just saying that when you're trying to develop your psychic abilities, releasing that fear means you may have to find a different church if church is important to you.
Well, that's true.
And there are spiritualistic churches out there that you could go to, if that is your thing. If that's not your thing, that's fine. But that's a whole ingrained into your mind, and I almost want to say into your soul, this fear.
Mm-hmm.
But
right.
But fear is not spiritual. It's all human.
It's true. It's true. It's what your mind has put into place.
Exactly.
To protect you.
Right. So when you have a fear, and some fears are based on life. They are valid fears. And then you have some things that are phobias that Kim has.
Yeah.
Too. We all
Yes.
do, actually. It's not just Kim. But, it's so when you address your fears, is huge. Now, did you do anything in particular, Kim, when you were starting to address your fears?
Well, of course I meditated on it, and
Right.
did affirmations trying to tell me that, letting me know that it's okay to let that go, to just go ahead and do something and try it and see how far you can get before the fear popped back in. One of my big fears, and I really don't know where it came from, is I'm extremely afraid of heights. And even step ladders tend to put me over the edge on getting where I am stuck on top of a ladder and I can't get back down. But that fear, I think, might have come, well, let's just go there. It might have come from past life.
I was going to
fear.
say, usually when you have a phobia or fear that has no basis, that usually is a past life. That perhaps you fell from height, or you were thrown off a cliff, or there was some traumatic situation that happened in a past life that causes your fear of heights.
Or you had to climb the gallows.
Yes, something that there's
Yeah.
there's something that was up high that affected you. That you have
Right.
carried that fear into this life, which you could work on a past life regression and try to identify that. Like my fear of dark water is a valid one because I nearly drowned. So that's not
Right.
the same kind of fear. A fear of, heights for no apparent reason. That is telling you that there is a possibility of a past life situation. And some people have more than one past life. And
No, that's true. Mm-hmm.
And that's another fear thing. It's like, what do you mean I had a past life?
So-
No, I don't believe in that. And that's a fear. It's a fear that pops up. But that's a valid point you have. Is probably a past life.
All right. So with that and that understanding, because I've told myself that's got to be where that is, because I've never fallen off of a ladder and gotten hurt. I've climbed trees as a child, but now that's a steady fear that I have. I've actually been facing it and climbing up ladder and see how far I can get before the fear starts gripping me.
Okay, so I'm
And
going to
then
point.
I
I'm
try
going
to breathe with it.
I'm going to point something out. As a child, you did not have this fear,
True.
correct? Because you climbed trees. You didn't have this fear. This fear developed at a certain age for you.
Right. When it was, I don't know.
Yeah. If that certain age, though, is where in the past life the fear began.
Ah.
Does that make sense?
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
let's say, I'm just going to say it's 36, because that's the number that popped into my head. Let's say that fear showed up at the age of 36. So that would have translated into the fact that around that age period in a previous life is when this trauma happened.
When it happened. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's great that you're trying to
lot of
push
sense, yeah.
yourself to climb these ladders and trying to face those fears. One thing you might want to try is in meditation, trying to cut cords to any past life. So set the intention of that you're going to cut the cord of any emotions, feelings, and thoughts that have traveled with you from a previous life, and see if that helps.
Oh, it's a good suggestion there. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it might be where, see, now your mind is trained to be afraid to get on the ladder because you've been doing it for so
Right.
long. Your mind is trained,
Right.
So I think if you practice the cord cutting, scenario, that might help. You can also ask your spirit team to intervene and help you with this fear.
That is what I do whenever
You
I'm
were like,
on the ladder. I will sit there, close my eyes, and just say, all right, spirits, come in and, help me calm down, help me be able to open my eyes and be able to climb back down. Because I don't go any further once that happens, because each time I try to go up a little bit higher, but I have them help me get back down and then go back up again and see if I can get higher. I went up. I was really proud of myself. I went up 5 rungs on the ladder the other day. So
wow.
it was
good for
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I didn't make it to the roof, but I did make it.
Well, if you're afraid of heights, you should not be on the roof.
Right?
But
that's a goal.
Yes, that's a good goal. So, and the fact that you identified and you were afraid to say it about the past life. Yes. So that's funny because we're doing an episode on fear and you were afraid to bring it up. Good example of what of what we're trying to accomplish. We all have
it's
fears.
Fear in motion.
Yeah, it
fear in motion.
Yeah, and, because it's a human condition, you could be a practicing psychic on TV and you still can have some fear because of like past life situations or whatever, fear and ego are linked together. Mm-hmm. So you could have your ego is the one that talks to you badly, has those bad conversations with you, which, if you feel you're in that bad, you're having that self-talk to yourself, remember, go to mindfulness, pop out of that and be here, be now. And that's another thing you could do when you have a fear moment is be here, be now, get your mindfulness going. Mm-hmm. I think that would be good. The fears for me were many. And for me, I wrote them down in my journal because something about writing it down makes it real. And and makes me think about my fears. Because if I'm writing it down in the journal, it's in there. I can't delete it, because I just wrote it down. So for me personally, I found that writing my fears down truly helped. And to be honest, when, Mom was diagnosed with cancer, I knew my abilities were going to shoot up after she transitioned. Spirit was making it very clear. And so that was an innate fear that I didn't want to disappoint my mother.
Right.
She already had one psychic child out there, and it was really funny. It was when, my eldest sister would give some sort of a reading, Mom would turn to me and say, "Did you pick that up?" And I thought that was funny because I'm like, well, you don't believe in this, remember? But she would ask me, and I would give her, my opinion. So I think she did. She just didn't know what to do with it, that information. Does that make sense? Because she never said anything. She never was negative about it. It was, again, it was just the way she was raised. It wasn't something, even though her her grandmother was psychic and a practicing psychic, it just wasn't in the time frame she was growing up acceptable in the Bible Belt.
Right.
In the Bible Belt.
Right. And there were times whenever she would ask me what my beliefs were in it.
Well, I have an example of where I used my abilities, and I think both parents were aware what happened, but nobody talked about it. We were in Johnson City, Tennessee. It was Mom, Dad, and I, and we were visiting. Mom drug us to many cemeteries during her genealogy, and we have people buried in Johnson City, Tennessee. And we went to go, she had been there before, but she wanted to go visit again and see the headstones and everything. And she was looking for her grandfather. And she couldn't find her grandfather, and she was off wandering. And I turned to Dad. I said, "What's wrong with that?" I said, "Why are there 2 graves there? There's 2 graves in one. Why are there 2 graves in one?" And he looks. He goes, "What?" I said, "There's 2 graves in one." And it's why are there 2 graves in one? And he walked over and he goes, "Carrie found Grandpa." It was like, and it was weird. It was a metal tombstone. I had never seen a metal tombstone, and it had a plate that had broken and had come off, and it was laying there. And Mom goes, "Oh, how'd you find it?" I said, "Well, Mom, why are there 2 graves here?" I said, "There's 2 graves in one." And she's like, "Well, they had a baby that died, and so the baby is buried here as well." I went,
"Oh, wow.
Okay." But nobody said, "Why do you think there's 2 graves in one?" No one once questioned it. Guess maybe they were just used to it. But see that I didn't let the fear get in the way. It was just so. Why are there 2? I mean, it wouldn't let up. Why are there 2 graves here? Why are there 2 graves in one? This doesn't make any sense. Why are there 2 graves in one? It was just constant. And that was, I guess, spirit being pushy.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you're not going to get anything bad from your spirit team.
Right.
They're not going to give you harmful information. Your team works with you. You're also communicating with your soul or your higher self. And those things are all positive and loving. So I think part of the fear that I myself had as I went on that tangent about the tombstone was, what are your family going to think? That was a very valid fear.
Yes, very valid.
What are people at work going to think?
Yep. What will people think?
Yeah. But think about just as fear as a situation. You're starting a new job in a new place. There's fear.
Mm-hmm.
What if nobody likes me? Can I make the coffee maker? I'm going to need coffee. Hopefully they got a coffee maker I can make work. I have to quit then. It's like, can I do this job? Did I make the right decision? That fear is coming through and you get nervous and you go through this whole thing. But that's what the same thing is with your psychic ability. You get there. What the coffee maker's like what you have at home. It's a Keurig, if you have a Keurig. Or you just met your new best friend. You guys clicked. At work, and they give you projects that you totally, oh yeah, I could do this. And so that fear is now gone because you're in the present. Right. So your fears were false.
Fears are, but those fears were valid fears to have when you're confronted with something new.
Yes,
exactly. Like a new job. You're always going to have, what I guess I'm trying to say is there will always be fear. But it's whether or not you allow this fear to take over and shut down your abilities.
Exactly.
Because you do have your intuition, that's that gut feeling that tells you to fear this situation you're in because there's danger here in a particular situation. Does that make sense?
Yes. That makes sense.
Okay. Yay, I made sense.
So, discussing fear, once, like we talked about in the new job scenario, once you got into it, the fear was gone. Well, it's the same for psychic development. I mean, when you think about it, now we've identified why we had the fear before we started. What do people think? They think I'm crazy, blah, blah, blah. Valid fears. Okay, so now you're going to start to develop your abilities. Now what is your fear?
Oh, well, being wrong.
That is number one. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, 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 yes.
Well, and you know what? You're going to be wrong. There is no psychic that is 100% all the time. So you are going to be wrong. So, think about it in life. You're not right all the time. How many times have you lost an argument and going, oh, shoot, I was wrong. Darn it. Yeah, that's life because you have other factors when you're doing a reading. You've got people around you. What you've got coming in may not be for the person in front of you. It might be the person down the road or, next door or whatever. It might be a random piece of information that isn't valid for that particular person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a huge fear, is not getting it right and being wrong, because as humans, we don't like being wrong.
Right.
So that was a good one, Kim.
Thank you. Well, and then another fear is that I personally have, and I'm sure others do too, is disappointing someone and thereby disappointing myself.
I think that's huge. That's a very valid fear. And I think everybody feels that way, Kim. I really do.
Yeah.
But what do you do about
it? Because then I was going to say, because then when that all happens, then you start feel disappointment in yourself. Then you begin the cycle of shutting it down. Well, I don't want to disappoint someone, so therefore I don't want to disappoint myself. And it's just a cycle, and it shuts things down.
And that's when you start having that self-talk dialogue coming through.
Correct. Right. So you just have to go, I guess, back into the mindfulness. And I said, I guess, because this is something that I do work on every day.
Everybody does, though.
I have a problem with this, yeah.
If anybody's telling you that, oh, I have no problem with this, and oh, I could do that, come on. They're human.
Yeah.
We all have moments where we slip out of our mindfulness, or I catch myself when things are going personally awry in my life. I catch myself having these conversations, and then like, oh wait, stop that, don't do that.
Yeah.
You know.
So what you have to do is to recognize that you're having that dialogue.
Yes.
And that's a big thing that I have to just learn how to stop sooner.
Yes.
And not let it go on so long.
And that's
and
that's where we've talked about sending ego home, or putting ego in the trunk, or making that mindful ego, no, go away. And then bring yourself to present, because I think you have to identify what it is. And the more that you identify its ego, the more you're going to be like, no, bye, see ya.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that another big one for me is the being judged, which I think we might have covered part of that, but that could really shut down.
No, I agree.
Your wanting to take on your abilities and embrace things.
Well, I mean, you tying into your intuition is going to help you so much in life. Even if you have no intent, I have no intention. Kim has no intentions of doing readings. She will never do a psychic reading at this point in her life. It might change down the road, but at this point in her life, she's not going to go out there and do readings, right?
That's right.
That's not your comfort zone. But that may not be your path. But you can still use your intuition in daily things that will help you. Help you grow spiritually. Help you get that inner knowing that don't turn left here. Go straight. Don't turn. Just keep going. Things that are going to help you in your daily life that are keeping you safe, or giving you knowledge that's needed for this particular moment. Or don't make eye contact. Whatever it is that intuition's telling you.
Which it is helping me nowadays. Nowadays, it's always been there, but embracing it, I am more aware that I am doing that, using the intuition and following through with it, as far as don't go there, or like you said, don't make eye contact, or you really don't want to continue this conversation with this person. You need to move on, stuff like that.
Exactly. Now I'm going to bring up a topic. I think there's a lot of fear of bad spirits and bringing negative energy into your home.
Yes, that is a very big one that I have.
Well,
and I'm sure others do too, but that is a fear that I have.
Well, especially if you've brought something. And some people, it's a valid fear, because it's, again, fear of the unknown. But when you think of all the scary horror movies that are out there, really promote bad spirits make it very dramatic. And I'm not saying that there aren't bad spirits, but it's not like in the movies.
Okay.
Okay. But we've brought things home with us before, whether it was attached to a china cabinet or a rocking chair, or I shouldn't call it this because they're beings, but sometimes I call it a stray wandered in, because they don't belong there. And and then it's simple. Ask them to leave. You smudge your home. You put salt down, and you've created this boundary. That they cannot come back in.
Right. Well, my fear of this comes from childhood, and I know it does.
You were raised in a haunted house.
I identified it. Right. This actually began at the other house we lived in before that one.
Okay.
But it definitely carried into the haunted house, the funeral home. Mine was at night. I was in a single bed, a twin bed, and there was a hand that would come up from underneath the bed, and it grabbed my shoulder one night, and it held on to my shoulder. and I was terrified, and I screamed and jumped up and out into the center of the bed and leapt over the hand. It was reaching up to grab me still, and I ran into Mom and Dad's room screaming and crying because there was somebody under my bed. And they came in to tell me, nope, there's nothing underneath your bed. You're sleepwalking again. It's okay. Go back to bed. Everything's going to be fine. But I was not asleep when that happened. And so there were other times that I would see the hand coming up from underneath the bed. Sometimes it was on both sides of the bed, and I had to sleep in the middle unless there was a wall, and then I would put the bed up against the wall, and that's where I slept, was against the wall, and watch the hands come up. Now, to me, there was something under the bed.
Well, you could have had an entity under your bed.
Right.
Yeah.
And it kept trying to touch me. So that was a fear that I had from childhood that I know was, it was a fear that I had, and I know that there was something there. Whether it was, I don't think it was a friendly ghost. I think there was something that was there trying to touch me when it shouldn't have touched me.
Well, there's many different theories about ghosts and spirits. Ghosts are the ones who have not gone to the light, haven't crossed over, where spirits have crossed over. So ghosts, when they're trying to get your attention, sometimes, and this is the theory, is that they're like going, hello, 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 and they get louder and louder, and then pretty soon they're like screaming at you, and then when it comes through, it's scary. Or they're tapping you on the shoulder. Hello, tap, tap, hello. It gets harder and harder and harder, and pretty soon you have a scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so not always is the ghost really trying to be scary. Now, there are some that are. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not downplaying what happened to you as a child, because it sounds very traumatic.
It was scary movie traumatic.
Right. But there are some spirits or ghosts that like to do a little mayhem. And you could have had that situation happen at that point.
Right.
So, and as a child, you wouldn't know how to get rid of that.
No.
Unless you were being raised by psychic parents that were out of the closet, you really wouldn't know to say, you got to go.
Right.
And this is a perfect situation, as like we were talking about when we started this episode, of ingrained fears where you're being told it's not real. But
right, that I'm just dreaming and sleepwalking.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. Well, you did have a history of sleepwalking, so
I did.
Yeah. So that wasn't
not denying that.
It wasn't a made up thing, but this is where these fears become ingrained in us, because you were told it wasn't happening. There's nothing under your bed, but you're seeing these things.
Right.
And, parents don't mean to affect their children this way, but they're just trying to go with what they know and what they've been told. How many times do kids say there's someone in my closet and there's nobody in there? Well, children are wide open. Most of them are. Some people's abilities come later on, but usually children see things.
Yes.
And then they're conditioned to shut their gifts down because they're always being told that's not real. No, you didn't see that. Or that's wrong. Don't tell anybody.
Or get teased about it because, you didn't really see that.
And when you think about it, with teasing, there's always a bit of truth to a tease. If someone's teasing you about something, in their mind, there's a little bit of truth to what they're saying to you.
Mm-hmm.
So so when you're being told, oh, you didn't see that, well, maybe I saw it. I don't want anybody to treat me this way. So I'm going to, you didn't see that. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
So it's kind of the, well, I just saw how so-and-so reacted when you said that. So that's kind of how bullying starts, when you think about it. Because they
Good
don't...
point.
they don't want, like me being the youngest, if you're getting this kind of attention, I can be like, no, you didn't. You didn't see that, because if I saw it, I'm not going to want to admit to it now.
Yes, exactly.
So that's a big fear that is, like you said, trying to release those kind of fears. But I think that if you honor your spiritual self and your inner voice, and you live with gratitude and clarity, you will gain confidence in your gifts. And that fear will slowly, as you're gaining, that fear is going to get smaller.
Yeah, right. And it's okay to be wrong, and it's...
Yeah. Because you're not right all the time. There's no way you could be right all the time.
Yeah, and I thought I read somewhere that even the best psychic and psychic medium is never 100% correct. It's maybe 80%. Or if you want to put a number on it, they're about 60 to 80% correct anyway at that moment.
Because there's so many factors. Let's say, what did you experience before you even started the reading? Did you get stuck in traffic? Did someone cut you off? Are you not caffeinated properly? These are all factors that can play into your reading, as well as energies around you. I've gone to these psychic conventions where I wasn't doing the readings. I was, pick me, I want to do a reading, and you actually, the ones in this area, you pay $5 to get in the door, and then you choose which psychics you want to sit down with, and it's 25 minutes for $25, and you just go and do what you want. And then they have vendors. It's always a fun experience. If you've never been to a psychic fair, I highly recommend it. You go to a psychic fair, that's going to help you with your fears, because you got some fears going in because you've never been.
Right, that's true.
So there is that element of just go and do it. Because they had tarot, oracle cards, past life readings, all these different kinds of readings. And, I'm there and I'm getting my readings and I'm looking at all these people and going, how are you dealing with all this energy? Because, you're communicating, and, did I get everything correct? I don't know yet, because sometimes these readings, it could take months and years before everything comes to play that you got into a reading, because it's not, the time frame's different.
Yeah, because they're not giving you a reading for the next 2 months of your life.
Exactly.
Some things could be 4 years down the road or more,
Right. So, and that's where you could have misinformation at a reading. It could be...
It doesn't apply at this time.
It doesn't apply at this time. Or what's coming through is actually the person who's waiting over there for their reading to come up next.
Oh, good point.
Because, I don't know if you've experienced it, Kim, but have you ever had someone pushy that had to get something said, that they were being pushy and they want the message to come through?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
And so sometimes you have someone who's really pushy and like, oh, will you stop? I used that example, I think it was the last episode, maybe the episode before, where I was talking to someone through Messenger, and the guy showed up and he was being pretty pushy, because he wanted the person I was talking to know certain things. And it was very important to him. He was like, say this, say that, and that could be scary if you're not used to it. The first couple times it happened to me, I was like, what the heck is going on here? Because you can tell it's not your thoughts, and you can tell it's not you.
Right.
And then you're talking to someone who doesn't know, because, you're in the closet, and you're like, oh, I got to tell this person this? How am I going to work this into the conversation? And then by the time you put your spin on it, you may have messed up the message, and now you're not accurate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
especially if you let that ego come in.
Yes, if you're trying to decipher what this person's saying, but the message isn't for you, it's for the person that's in front of you. So if so you could be wrong there by trying to make what this picture you're being shown is to something that makes sense to you, which it's not for you, it's for this person, and it might make perfect sense for that person. So that's where you can be wrong as well.
Right.
And plus you're human, and your ego will get in the way when you do readings.
Ego's always there.
Sometimes he's in the trunk, but yes.
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. Some people are just like super open to being psychic. Like, oh, I want to be psychic. Oh, I can't. Yeah. And they don't seem to have that fear. So I always find it funny because you have different personalities, react differently. I just think that's interesting because okay, so I had an eye doctor appointment. And, they ask you, they want to know what all you do, what do you need your glasses to accomplish for you if you wear glasses or whether contacts are going to be good or not. And the gal's sitting there and she's like, okay, what do you do for a living? And I do this. And she goes, okay, but what do you do for fun? Do you have, it's, well, I make jewelry. I do a podcast for psychic ability. So it was really uncomfortable to say, oh, I'm a psychic. Don't know if that pertains to my eyesight, but there is a third eye involved, so here we go.
Yeah.
And it was.
Well, you have to read your notes and computer screens.
Yes,
that's all relevant.
Yes, so it does go together. But it was kind of like, because usually when people come to me, they kind of, I don't know, that their instincts know that I'm be able to tell them something. Because I don't promote it.
Right.
And so being at the eye doctor, well, what else do you use your eyes for? My psychic work. And she was, bless her heart, oh, really? I'm from Florida, and I used to go to a psychic all the time. And then she went down this other path, which was entertaining and fun. But, it was scary. I was like, well, I do podcasts, so I had to be able to read the computer and work on my, it's like, And that fear came out of nowhere. Shoot, we were already doing the podcast. It wasn't like we were going. Oh, yeah. It wasn't like, well, I'm going to start this podcast with my sister, and and I've been out of the closet at work with my small circle. Everybody knows. I do craft shows periodically for back of house employees at where I work, and I got my woo woo. I do one half is woo-woo of the table, the other half is not woo-woo, and people walk up, and I'm like, well, and if they don't know what woo-woo is, okay, this is the side of the table you need to be looking at, And,
or do they?
Yeah. I've had people that didn't know what woo-woo was, and I get that. We it's a term we picked up from listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Or I'm speaking for myself. And so it's code for,
that's true.
Woo-woo is code for, you're either psychic, you're into the occult, you're into, this is a big statement. You can be a Wiccan.
The magic, you're into whatever, Wiccan, yeah.
It's a broad statement for what you do. You don't have to do all of it. You don't have to tick all the boxes, but whatever you're woo-woo.
Right.
So, if you hear someone say, this is the woo-woo stuff, then you may want to go check it out. Don't be afraid of it.
That's so true.
Getting out of the psychic closet.
Yeah, getting out of the psychic closet. That is a big deal.
How do you get out of the psychic closet without anxiety and fear?
Yeah, how do you?
Well, how did you do it? You got drug into a podcast. That's how you did it.
I got pulled by my hair.
Kicking and screaming.
Yep, kicking and screaming.
But you've enjoyed this.
You and I have been...
Yeah. Well,
you and I have talked off all the time about psychic abilities and stuff before this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Came to you. So.
Yeah, it would always be one would call the other. You're not going to believe what just happened. This is just what happened. What do you think of that? What do you think it was? It was like, well, I know what it was. We do it to each other, and that's helped. Having someone that you could pick up the phone or you could text or talk to and just say, hey, this is what just happened. What do you think? What's your spin on it? And we both have very vivid dreams. I'm always trying to help each other out with the dreams, but really it comes down to your interpretation. But having someone that you could talk to helps with this anxiety and fear so much.
Yeah, it's that support system. Everybody needs support in their life for something.
Right.
And it definitely helps with the psychic abilities and stuff on this journey.
And so part of the fear, part of why the fear doesn't go away is because you don't have a support system.
Right.
And I think just having a friend that you can just say, well, there's times that I can't talk to you because there's a thing called empath, and you may want to Google it, but I'm an empath, and I need to shut down. And if they're really your friend, they're going to be like, well, okay, what's that again? And they're going to they wouldn't make fun of you, because a true friend would not. And,
right.
And if they do make fun of you, then you need to reevaluate that person's situation in your life, because this is someone that's not going to help you on your growth, but you have other friends. Or your people or your tribe will come to you.
Right, right.
So I think that is big, is finding someone you could talk to about your development.
Right, and someone that would be understanding and supportive of your fears when you express your fears, and
Yes.
not just excuse them or brush your fears aside, that they're there to help support you through those fears whenever you need it.
Yeah, and if you don't have anyone in your life that you feel that you could, do this with, you could join a Facebook group on psychics and psychic developments. You could follow a psychic. I mean, we answer questions. If someone's got a question, we're going to answer it. So you're not alone. Right. So you do have, you can find a spiritualistic church if there's one in your area.
Mm-hmm.
You could go there and maybe find a mentor. I know there's a lot of, I don't say a lot of, there's several in the area of psychics that, you hire to be your mentor, which, that's part of their calling. But if you're just going, Googling it, and I'm going to go with this person without finding out, are they really the one to help you with your path?
Right. Or are they just there to make money?
Right. Because, everybody's got to make a living. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But is this personality, the right one for you? I had someone reach out to me, and they wanted to have lunch, and they wanted to discuss the stuff. I didn't know who this person was. It was kind of a friend of a friend type scenario. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'll meet with you for lunch. It's a public spot. Okay. Are you okay meeting in a public spot to discuss psychic abilities? And she was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, okay. So I met with her, and she had a mentor, but they weren't at the same, she wasn't in her development getting what the mentor was trying to tell her. Because the mentor obviously is very skilled psychically. They have a regime that they use for psychic development, or otherwise it wouldn't work. So she was kind of complaining to me about her mentor.
Oh.
And I knew what the mentor was saying from what she, because she would say, this. I'm like, okay, well, what they meant was this. And she's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I said, because you're not learning on your own. And she looked at me funny. I said, you're relying on this psychic that you've paid money for to bring you to a level, but you're not learning on your own as well.
Yeah, you have to do the footwork.
Yes. And so she was frustrated with the psychic, who was also in turn getting frustrated with her because she wasn't doing the work.
Yeah.
But one way to handle fear and anxiety is to learn. Research it.
Research it, yeah.
Yeah. When I started having certain things start popping up, like my vivid dreaming, and, I was always calling Kim, oh, this is what happened, because I dream black and white. Occasionally I dream color, so it just, and I've started to identify what is a psychic dream and what is my subconscious working through stuff, or what is both. And my black and white dreams are not specifically black and white. There's gray in there, which is a form of So it's just kind of different symbolisms that happen and stuff. And I was talking to Kim one day and I said, oh my gosh. And I said, this is what happened last night. And I am so tired. I just feel like I just did stuff all night long. And she's like, well, I've been listening to this podcast and she goes, and they did a thing on astral travel. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Astral travel? And so she sent me the thing, and that was part of and I then learned, well, shoot, that's exactly what's happening to me at night. But Kim's, she's podcast queen, loves her podcast,
yes,
all variety of them.
Yes.
I like to read stuff. And that was Kim's hey, you check it out. And I did. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned something new. And that made me feel good, about myself, that I'm not weird. Well, I'm weird, but I love my weirdness. Right. I'm embracing my weirdness.
Exactly.
It's my little badge of honor. But I also learned what I was doing at night. And it made so much more sense.
Yep.
That the dreams didn't bother me as much. I'm still, seeing what I need to interpret and things like that, but it helped. It gave me comfort. And when you get comfort, there's no fear.
Right. Yep. That's how we learned about the astral travel.
Yes. And how that works is you have I guess they call it a silver cord attached to your body and to your soul. And at night, when you're sleeping, your soul leaves your body. And sometimes when it comes back in, it's a rough landing and it jerks you awake.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I'd be like jerked awake in the middle of the night, because it's basically your entire body just jerks. And I'm thinking, am I having some sort of seizure? Is this something medical? And no, I'm just coming home. Just coming back.
Just coming home.
It's all good. But, because Kim and I, even though we research differently and we come up with the same stuff, so it kind of validates we're on the right path in my mind.
Right.
Which also helps with the fear factor. Because when you receive validation, there's no reason to be afraid. Because you're getting
exactly
validation.
Right.
Yeah. Now, we talked about, sharing with someone you could trust. You need having that person to talk to. Don't share with everybody. Because that's going to give you so much more anxiety and fear because not everybody believes in psychics.
Yeah, that is so true.
And
true. And then they could start the judging and the criticizing, and that'll start that process all over again.
And that fear is instinct will pop right back up.
Yep.
So it's a know your audience kind of thing. And the more you grow and the less fear you have, then start sharing it with people. But I hate it. Well, what are the winning lottery numbers? If you're psychic, why haven't you won the lottery? Because my guides don't think I should. It's not part of the plan. But so if you're just starting out, and that's one of the things that you're afraid of is being ridiculed or judged. Well, there are going to be some people that are going to do that. That's where you just kind of need to work through your fears, have that friend or coworker or whoever to share with, where you're at on your journey, what can I, those kind of things. But just kind of be careful not to tell everybody. Unless you're going to start doing readings and take out an ad, but
Yeah.
Not everybody wants you to win in life.
Right. I was just going to say you really need to have your protection and grounding up. You need to protect yourself.
Yes. And, I'm very open at work about my abilities, but, there's people, there's some people in the department that have no idea. A, I have a psychic podcast. B, that I'm psychic. They just think I like stones, pretty stones.
Yep.
But because they're not part of my tribe, I know not to, my guard is up with them and I'm careful with them because they're not part of my path for my spiritual journey. And it's okay for them to not be part of my path.
Yeah, because not everybody in your life is there to follow the same path you're on.
Exactly. And it's funny, is this one of the girls that she came over, she's like, oh my gosh, what's going on with the universe? Because this, and this. I said, what, the solar flares are going on? we had some astrological things happening, and we were discussing that. And the one person that doesn't know is just looking at us both like, what the heck are you talking about? And just, she'd say something and I'd say something. And, and then I shared a meme with her that it was funny. It was a picture of an actual text message that said, it was basically, and I'm going to go squirreling on you, when the person you're seeing finds out you're into astrology, and the text from the guy was, "Do you want to hang out?" And she says, "I can't." And his reply is it because Mercury's in lemonade? Instead of retrograde. And so we were discussing that and just laughing, and he's just looking at us like, what are you guys talking about? And that's one person that I just know I'm not supposed to share anything with. And that's where the more you let go of your fear, the more your intuition kicks in, and the more that you're going to have that, you don't need to know anything about me kind of moment. And that's okay. You're not, in life,
that's okay.
You're not accepted by everybody anyway.
Yep, that's right. I think I have done a good job of trying to get out there. As far as once we started the podcast, I began liking things physically, clicking on the like button of psychic development things and stuff like that more than what I ever would have done before starting the journey.
Right. And because of that fear, I have a dear friend from high school that, when the work schedule isn't on, like when they're not working nights, when we got the day schedule going on, I get every Monday afternoon. So in the podcast, you said this, and I'm like, oh, no, you're listening. And this person isn't even trying to develop their psychic abilities. They're being supportive to a friend.
Right.
But they're getting something out of it each time they listen.
Yep.
So
that's true.
So, yes, it's great they're being supported, but they're getting understanding and knowledge and an open mind.
Right. Correct. Right. They're being open-minded and they're getting something out of it, because not all of this necessarily could apply to psychic development. It's just dealing with fears or dealing with things that go on in anybody's life.
Right. And your exit from the psychic closet has been a very slow progression.
Yes, very slow.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that though. Because, there's so much you're dealing with. And if you try to just come out of the closet and you got on your I'm super psychic t-shirt and a cape, well, you're going to crash and burn.
Definitely. And that's a fear.
I have a t-shirt that's all about woo-woo. And I have to be careful where I wear it. Because And should I be? No. I should just put that thing on and rock it. But, so that's my fear on that. Does the fear make sense? No, it's in my mind. Because, if I'm going to the grocery store and I got my woo-woo shirt on, I'm probably going to get crazy looks, scowls, because there's a lot of judgmental people out there. But you know what? They could have done that with any outfit I had on.
That's true.
They
could have done it because you had an outfit on.
Well, it's the grocery store. Let's hope there's outfits on. But you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Not going to please everybody anyway. But
anytime.
Right. But your exit from the psychic closet should be slow because you're learning and you're developing.
Right.
And if you have strong clairvoyant tendencies, I can see why you'd still be in the closet. If you haven't learned your clairs and your grounding and, your chakras and your aura work, who knows what all you're getting. We've all had it. Anyone that's got clairvoyant tendencies is always getting information brought in. I had one the other day, and then I'm like, oh, okay, Kim. Anytime I see a snapshot, it's clairvoyant. Whether it's a dream or just in my mind's eye, I see a snapshot. That's my clairvoyance coming through. And the picture doesn't make sense because I have to figure out what the symbols are in the picture.
Right.
So it's kind of, and if you're not used to doing any of that work and you're getting these weird snapshots and you're not grounded, that could be pretty scary.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But like I said, we talked about never stop learning. You need to embrace your intuition because it's you. And it's your guidance system. Your intuition is not going to take you down the wrong path. We have self-will. We take ourselves down the wrong path. And we go kicking and screaming because if you're on the wrong path, it doesn't go smoothly.
No, it fights you every step of the way.
Right, because it's trying to push you back to where you need to be on that yellow brick road. But you know better. So, those are all things that are very important, to deal with your fear. But the last thing I think is really important is you have to expect the unexpected.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, how many times that you've okay, one example, when I used the example of going to the grocery store and I wanted the fried chicken from the deli and it turned into, that was unexpected. I did not expect that.
Okay.
That was unexpected.
Gotcha.
Sometimes when you're manifesting, if you don't believe in it, it won't happen. But when you're like, I'm manifesting this is it, I'm writing it down, this is going to happen. And then it happens, isn't that unexpected because you really didn't think it was going to happen?
Yeah, but if you didn't think it was going to happen,
but
why
then
would you be trying to manifest it?
But then you do the work. I mean, come on. Have you ever tried to manifest something and secretly down deep inside, you really, really want this to happen, but it might not? Because you were, you're ingrained with that. I shouldn't ask for what I really want. I should ask for less.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So I think anytime you manifest, and you people that have manifested for a while don't experience this. Okay, but if you're starting with the manifesting process and it happens, you're kind of like, wow, that happened. That's the unexpected. Yeah. I mean, I had two situations that I really want. It was very I was very emotionally attached to these two particular situations. And when you're emotionally attached, it's, you're all over the place. And boom, one thing fell into place. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that did work. And boom, the other one did. Because, I'm emotional. And I'm like, of course, I have to pick up the phone. Kim, guess what just happened? This was wrong. And then bam, it fixed it right away. And then this was wrong. And then bam, it fixed it right away. And it was unexpected, but I wanted it to work. But this was like on the fly manifesting. Because something just went wrong.
Yes.
And I was on the fly manifesting. And bam, it happened. Oh my gosh. That's unexpected.
Yep. Okay. I get it.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's not like something you've been manifesting for months. That you're just not waiting, that you're just waiting for the time period to be right. This is on the, I guess I should have prefaced it with, manifesting quickly for certain situations.
Yeah. Right. Gotcha.
That could be unexpected. Gotcha. So there are some things that can happen. You get an unexpected download and you're like, oh my gosh, what was that? That's unexpected.
Or you could just turn and there'd be someone standing there, spirit standing there too.
Right. That happens.
Trying to communicate with you, you know?
That's unexpected.
Yeah.
So you have to be open to the fact that, okay, there's going to be times when things are going to happen unexpectedly. And embrace it. Okay. Because the situation is now. Like, I mean, there's times that I've ended up giving a message to someone that was unexpected. It was a download, just came in.
Right.
I'm not looking at people going, I think I might have something for you. No, because I'm not open. Just like trying to get my groceries at the grocery store, and then this person needs this message, and you're it. You just got this unexpected download, and this is it. I need to tell you this.
Right.
And once you let go of your fears, you're going to get more downloads, and you're going to get more unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go into a room and you're, like you go to a wedding, you expect cake at the reception. Right? But if they have a buffet, buffet, that's unexpected. Because, we have food. Good. Those, it's kind of that, you go into a room and nothing happens. That's great. But you go into a room and, okay, this just happened. Or you just saw a ghost, or, something pops up. That's it. And if you're developing your mediumship skills, you're going to get a lot of unexpected. But you shouldn't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be afraid of it.
Right. Yeah. And I think another thing is trust.
Oh, yeah.
Trust in yourself, trust the universe, trust spirits, your spirit guides, and the process. Just trust.
Yeah, I think trust is a biggie. People have trust issues anyway. They
Yeah.
don't trust themselves, and the trust is huge. And I was thinking, when you're trying to find someone that you could talk to or confide in, if you have someone who brings up paranormal TV shows, that's your people.
Yeah, that's
That's your people. If they
Those
start
are
bringing
your people.
if they're talking about ghost hunters, you know what? Love the show. Watched it from when they were Roto-Rooter people. But you know what?
Yes.
Those are your people. If someone is watching paranormal stuff, that's your tribe. That's someone that you could say, did you know I'm a psychic? Or you could make comments alluding to your abilities. And, anybody that's watched any paranormal show on TV has been introduced to what psychic mediums are. Now, do they hype them up? Yes, they do, because they want ratings. But this person's going to be open to you because they're going to think you're cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not going to make fun of you
and you can trust that they might at least understand and listen to what you have to say.
Right, because not everybody believes in ghosts. Mm-hmm. And people that watch paranormal shows believe in what they can't see.
Right.
So they're going to have a better opportunity of believing in you. So if you don't have a social circle, find someone who likes paranormal shows, and that's your people right there. I know that was random.
Exactly.
I know that was random, but it's all about your journey in life, right? We're all on this journey, spiritually, intuitively, psychically, whatever you want to call it. But sharing your journey makes it so much more fun than not sharing your journey with anybody.
Right.
So if you stay in that closet, how much fun is that?
Right. And that closet gets a little lonely because you're keeping it all cooped up and bottled up and not sharing it with people.
And it's not good for...
Not sharing yourself.
Yes.
Not sharing who you really are with others.
And I think it feeds your anxiety more than being out of the closet. Because, when you're in the closet, you're not doing maybe as much spiritual work as you should because you're trying to keep it on the down low.
Right.
So I think that's real important to ease out of that closet at your pace, but you need to get out of that closet because you really could start having health problems because you're not developing things you need to, or you're internalizing so much because you don't have someone to share it with, and you're not learning and you're not growing. So, hopefully we've helped with the fear factor.
Oh, I hope so too. Because it's the fear's there. It's there all the time. You just need to have faith, trust, and work through it.
Yes, and remember that you're going to have to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to keep releasing it, keep letting it go. Not everybody is going to like the fact that you're a psychic, and that's okay.
Yep.
There's no one that everybody loves. There's always, there's always going to be people that are jealous of you or want to hold you back, or you're too pretty, or you're too thin, or you're too popular, or you get along well with everybody, and I don't like that. There's people like that in the world because they're not happy with themselves.
Right.
And as long as
their goal is to bring everybody down.
Right, because they're, they have issues. And that's their issues. And those people, as sad as it is, are not your problem to fix.
Right.
But you just move away from them. They're not your people.
Right. They're somebody else's people.
Yeah. I have friends that have no idea I'm psychic.
Yeah, me too.
But you had brought up the scenarios when you started to promote the podcast. That was hilarious. You're telling your daughter's friends, I've got this podcast. Yes. You might want to listen to it. Just, you don't have to, but, my sister and I are doing it. And they're like, well, what kind of podcast is it? And you're like, psychic ability development. Oh, that sounds cool. And yeah. and then you're like on board with it. Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. You should listen, but it's just like, yeah. But she's not telling her friends. She's telling her daughter's friends she's psychic. That's how she eased into it.
That's how I eased into it, yep.
But 20-something-year-olds are a little more open.
Yes, they are. They're a lot more open. So, and I've had experience or exposure with this friend, talk to her. She's one of my other kids, So I knew I could feel comfortable mentioning to her just based on her conversations that she has when she's here. So,
but what Kim
made it a little bit easier.
But what you didn't realize you were doing was you're calling your daughter out as being psychic.
I did. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Didn't even think about it.
She was like going, I'm going to promote the podcast. I'm going to let someone know that I'm psychic. And she takes her daughter with her.
I did. I just grabbed her and ran. You're coming with me if I'm doing this.
I'm not coming out of the closet. You are too. So there's safety in numbers, evidently. So
yeah, I didn't even think about that when that happened. I was like, oh, I should have asked you first, but sorry.
But, these things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
But like I said, all your friends don't have to know you're psychic. All your daughter's friends don't have to know you're psychic. Only the ones that are into the paranormal. Yeah. But
yes,
but
exactly.
I think just choose your friends wisely and know your audience,
Yeah, that's true.
And I've got friends that don't believe in paranormal stuff, but they're still my friend. Am I gonna,
That's right.
It's like common sense etiquette. I'm not gonna. My friends that are very religious, we don't talk about psychic stuff. And
right, because you have other things you can talk to them about.
Exactly, because I'm a person with other interests and things I like to do, and that so. You don't want to be, just like someone with religion, you don't like someone shoving religion on you. You don't shove your psychic abilities on them.
Right, exactly.
We can coexist, but it's kind of like knowing whether or not you should say something or not.
Yes, exactly. So. Use your intuition, use your psychic abilities to know whether or not you need to discuss this with the other person.
It's psychic etiquette.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, I have done readings on the fly where I'm talking to someone and it comes through. But each time I have done it, they were open to it. And they wanted it. But I just don't, I get stuff I don't say to people. Mm-hmm. If something pops in, I'm like, oh, we're not doing this. Because my intuition is saying no. Spirit's saying no. So you don't walk up to everybody and just give them a psychic reading. Mm-hmm. Because not everybody's open to that. And it's rude.
True.
When I start having it, I kind of fish around a little bit. When I tell you a story, I'm giving you the short version, on the podcast, because we don't have a time for me to get all long-winded and tell you, well, I started with this, and then I did this, and then, then I said this. It's kind of a dialogue.
Right.
And then, certain words Spirit wants me to use when I'm conversing, and that those words are sparking something in the person, and then now they think, oh, wait, are you psychic? It's usually how it works out. They ask me, are you psychic? And then they want to know everything.
Right. That's when they're open, so.
Right. But I don't walk up to people at work and, oh, by the way, you got this guy with you.
Yeah.
We were traveling to Tennessee with some friends of mine on Friday, and I went to her home, and her home's haunted. We know this. We've talked about it. She's the one who bought the haunted chair.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm talking to Monique, and we're waiting for the third person to arrive, and I'm like, okay, well, your ghost is right in my face, and he's right here. He's very tall, but, and she's like, should I make him go away? I said, well, do you want to feel where he's at? And I took my hand, I got the cold spot, and I said, okay, wait, he just moved. Okay, here's the cold spot. Put your hand here. And I said, is it cold? And she says, yes. Mm-hmm. I'm like, there you go. There's your guy.
There's your guy.
And then we're talking. Yeah. Well, and at this point, he knew I knew he was there. And so then he was being, I don't want to say obnoxious, but he was being like, hey, I'm right here. So he's like trying to get between her and I. And finally, just like, will you go away? Because I wasn't there for that.
Right.
And I felt like he was just kind of being a little stinker. So she went and got her smudge spray. She goes, I'm going to smudge. I'm like, okay. But, you know, he usually hangs out in the spare bedroom because nobody uses that room.
Oh, yeah.
But he came out to play.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all I got off of it. He wasn't malicious.
Mm-hmm.
He was being a little stinker because he wanted to be seen.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't saying anything.
No.
He wasn't talking to me.
Nope.
He was just, I'm here. And, you know, it was a little, get out of my space to me. But I knew I could talk that way with her. If I was at someone's house
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't know it was haunted and that happened, I would more than likely remove myself from that one section of the house, like move away a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say anything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I wouldn't want to freak someone out about the home they're happily living in and have no issues because the ghost isn't bothering them. They're just hanging out.
Right, exactly.
So that's where you would need to be cautious and have good etiquette with your psychic abilities. You don't want to say, hey, did you know your house is haunted? Now, if they say the house is haunted, would you come over and take a peek? That's something different.
That's something different, exactly. You're being invited over, so for that purpose.
So once you get over your fear, don't be going to everybody's house saying, well, this is what's in the corner, and, you know, have some etiquette with your psychic abilities.
Right.
Don't push a reading onto someone who A, doesn't want it, doesn't understand it, doesn't need it.
Yep, exactly. Well, I think that wraps up this episode of Psychic Bent. I hope you've all enjoyed the format that we chose to use this week. I think it was fun, and especially when we were discussing fears, we needed to put a little bit more fun into it with facing our fears. What do you think, Carrie?
I think so. I loved being, because it's good to be open and be honest and talk about what your fears were and still can be. I just thought it worked out very well. And I hope it's very helpful for everybody.
Yeah, me too. So next week, we will be starting a new series. It seems like you all enjoyed the series that we have had before. So we're going to be discussing the different psychic tools in the psychic toolbox.
Yes, it should be very exciting. Now, there's going to be many, many tools, and so not everybody's going to resonate with all the tools, but please give it a listen so you have some wonderful understanding of different tools that you may not be ready for now, but might be in your future.
True, and there may be some fears involved in these toolboxes, so that's why we had this episode discussing fears.
Yes, because a lot of people have fear of tarot.
Yes.
You know, so Kim being one of them,
yes.
Until she got a tarot reading for me the other day, and
yeah.
It was pretty spot on, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next episode, but that's just a little teaser. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye. May your light shine bright.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast, Psychic Bent. If you enjoyed Psychic Bent, please like, follow, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to Psychic Bent. We can be reached on Facebook at Psychic Bent Podcast. Our email address is psychicbent1@gmail.com. May your light shine bright.